Welcome to the Leverton on Everything podcast, where I, Leverton, review literally everything. Today we're going to talk about... Oh yeah, and I do it on a daily basis in under 10 minutes. Today we're going to talk about American Manhunt, the Boston Marathon bombing. And I think that this American Manhunt is actually a series, and this is just one of a longer series. But for this particular iteration, I gave it 6 out of 10 stars. Incompetence all around. This documentary is not stellar by any means, but it does give you a basic grounding of what happened during the terrorist attack at the Boston Marathon. I take away from it two conclusions. The first is that the pair of terrorists, two brothers who were the children of Chechen immigrants, were incompetent as terrorists, and unfortunately, the police chasing them were equally incompetent. Why do I think the terrorists were incompetent? They spent a great deal of time trying to construct bombs to kill and maim the most amount of people, and despite placing the bombs in a very crowded area, they initially only, thankfully, murdered 3 people and maimed a great deal more. If they had just used the gun they had and started shooting, they would have killed a lot more people, as America's problems with school shootings can attest. Then later they murdered somebody because they were trying to steal his gun, but didn't realize that gun holsters have security features which can prevent someone from stealing a gun, and so this murder was completely unnecessary. They then hijacked a car, and when the owner of the car escaped, they didn't realize that they could be tracked using GPS. Then, in a confrontation with the police, they were separated, and the younger brother actually drove over the older brother and killed him. So, in this horrible terrorist attack, he killed 4 people, and one was his own brother. But why do I say the police were incompetent? Well, generally, it was a lack of coordination. Photos depicting the assailants were leaked to the press, and this caused an escalation of the situation. When the stolen vehicle was found, the police who found it just thought it was a carjacking and not a pair of highly armed terrorists, and several other police agencies responded to the scene, and there was a large firefight within a suburban neighborhood, and it was lucky that no bystanders were killed by flying bullets in their houses. This is somewhat forgivable because things were moving at a very quick pace at this point. But then one of the terrorists managed to escape, and there was a citywide manhunt for him. He was found hiding in a boat that was covered by a tarp, and the tarp was covered in blood. He was quickly surrounded, and when an officer thought that he saw a gun and shot, then 30 or 40 officers surrounding the boat also shot at the boat for a total of 2 or 3 minutes before the situation was controlled and a ceasefire was ordered. The suspect did not have a gun, and it was very lucky that he wasn't shot. You might be saying, why does it matter if he was shot or not if he was a terrorist? Well, at this point, they didn't know that it was only 2 brothers who had arranged this attack, and they thought maybe it could be a larger terrorist group, so they need him for interrogation. And again, these shots were fired in the middle of a suburban neighborhood. One police officer was shot during the previous confrontation, most likely by friendly fire, and killed. In the melee that surrounded the boat, there were police officers who were not on duty who volunteered to arrive at the scene, which seems like a breakdown in the chain of command. One only hopes that their training has been updated and that these problems would not happen in a similar future emergency. Yeah, people didn't really like my opinion about that, but I think a city such as Boston probably has a terrorist response unit, and they are the ones who are trained to respond to these types of situations. It shouldn't be just you call like everybody and 500 people appear, because then it's hard to establish a chain of command if you have a bunch of volunteers. I think volunteers can work if you're looking for the suspect, if they've run away. And in this case, they knew where the suspects were after a certain point. Yeah, so you had 50 people shooting at the boat, so it's really lucky that more police officers actually weren't killed because of that. Okay, I have another podcast called the Death by Disney podcast. Please check it out if you can. I review all Disney movies in chronological order. Thanks and bye.